Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are doing so well. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favourite enemies to lovers books. Enemies to lovers is probably one of my top 3 favourite tropes, so I like to think I can recommend you some brilliant ones which are so worth reading. Having that in mind, I haven't read too many, surprisingly, and so I'm sure there is some brilliant ones out there that I haven't read. If I haven't included something that you think is like the best enemies to lovers out there, please leave it in the comments below. But anyway, if you are not familiar with what enemies to lovers is, the definition is a narrative where two characters begin as adversaries or rivals and over time develop a romantic relationship. We borderline just love a toxic man out here. I do believe there is so many levels to enemies to lovers. My personal favourites are the slow burn ones where they don't just instantly become lovers. It makes it so much more exciting. I am going to start with the soft enemies to lovers all the way to like the hardcore enemies to lovers. So there's a little bit for everyone if you are just starting out, or if you're someone who's looking for the hardcore stuff, enemies till the end. I'm going to be talking about fantasy books, romantasy books and romance books, so hopefully there is a little something that everyone can enjoy. But yeah, I'm going to stop yapping and let's get started. Number 1 is To Kill a Kingdom, and this was honestly my introduction into the enemies to lovers genre. This is a young adult book and it's what I would call a more suggestive and subtle enemies to lovers story. It's also a standalone, so for you people who don't want to commit to a whole series, this would be brilliant. This book is basically about a siren princess called Lyra, and her mother is the siren queen who is very evil. One day Lyra upsets her mother and her mother curses her to be a human, and she is tasked to kill the infamous siren killer. Then on the other hand you have Prince Elian, who is the siren killer, and he is the captain of the siren hunters ship. One day he sees and saves a drowning woman off the edge of his ship, and she comes aboard and she promises him she can destroy siren kind for good. However, he has no idea who she is, where she came from and if he can trust her. This book is honestly full of betrayal and tension. It's one of those books where only one of the characters knows that they're actually the enemy and the other one has no idea. The next book is Belladonna, and this is what I would call a non-traditional enemies to lovers. It's still brilliant, however it's not the main focus of the book. This follows a girl called Signa Farrow, and she has been followed by death her whole life. She was adopted as a baby as her parents got murdered, then every single person that she's been living with since has died. Currently her only remaining relatives are the Hawthorne family, so she ends up moving in with them. When she gets there, a spirit appears to her saying that she's been poisoned. This is where Signa realises her only family left could be in grave danger, and she wants to help them and break this curse that death has got around her. However, there's only one way she's going to uncover this murder, and it's if she creates an alliance with Death himself. As the mystery unfolds, she realises that her connection with Death is a lot more irresistible than she thought. So this book is a gothic fantasy. I believe it's set in like the 1800s, and it's mostly based off like a murder mystery. However, bringing everything together, it makes the romance between Death and Signa absolutely irresistible, and it's so unconventional. The enemies to lover, I would say, is based more off frustrations and how Signa has no control over her life because of Death. It's not very like intense enemies, but the connection that they grow together is insane. I love this book so much, and I highly recommend. It is also part of a 3-part series, and as the series goes on, the romance becomes more intense and it's so exciting. Next is a very popular one, and it's The Cruel Prince, and this is an enemies to lovers which takes a while. I will also say there's a common misconception about this series, and this series is not romantasy. The romance is a very side plot. This is more fantasy, very politics based, so please don't go in thinking this is going to be a big romance story. This book basically follows a girl called Jude and her 2 sisters who are abducted as babies and sent to the world of the Fae. They end up growing up here, and Jude soon realises to survive in this world she's going to have to become as cunning as the Fae. However, looming over her is the arrogant Prince Cardan, who makes her life very difficult. I would say that this first book is full of all the tensions between Jude and Cardan. He tries to kill her, he tries to annoy her, it's all those kind of things. However, in the second book is where the romantasy kind of thing starts and the enemies to lovers begins, and then obviously in the last book it kind of ends it all. So if you wanted to read the series, I would say it is so worth it. You just have to be patient and get through the first book first, which is a lot of world building, and then in the second book is where the tensions rise, secrets are uncovered. Honestly, just so good, and some of the things that Cardan does so unexpectedly will have you giggling and kicking your feet. Heading into the romance genre now, this is the Spanish love deception, and this basically follows Lena, and she needs a date to her sister's wedding in Spain. She's lied to her entire family saying she's got this really nice hot American boyfriend. However, that is not true. She ends up having a very short amount of time to find a boyfriend. Her work nemesis Aaron Blackford finds out she's in need of a date and volunteers, but she honestly couldn't think of anything worse because she hates this man. I, however, would do anything for that man. Aaron Blackford is one of the best underrated book boyfriends out there. He is so dark, mysterious, brooding. He's just everything. She obviously ends up having to accept his offer and realizes he's maybe not as bad as she first thought, and there's a lot of miscommunications between them that have happened in the past. This is one of my favorite types of enemies to lovers because it is heavily slow burn. Honestly, the part where they kind of start thinking about like the lovers bit is honestly like here in the book, so close to the end, which makes it so much more exciting to read because everything isn't resolved really quick. This is also obviously a fake dating, which makes the tensions run higher. Half a workplace romance. It's honestly just everything you could want in enemies to lovers. Next is Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and this is on the rom-com side of things, which makes it so much fun to read. This is about a literary agent called Nora and an editor called Charlie. They work together and they hate each other. Nora ends up swapping her city desk for a month's holiday in Sunshine Falls, and Sunshine Falls is a small town straight out of a romance novel. However, she keeps bumping into Charlie. This book is the perfect balance between steamy and sweet. It is so witty, the characters have incredible chemistry. I will honestly devour anything Emily Henry writes. It was just brilliant. But I will say it's definitely not a slow burn. I think things do happen quite quickly, but it does work quite well for this book. Getting into the more intense enemies to lovers, next is Twisted Hate, which is the third book in the Twisted series. You can read this as a standalone, but for the build up to these characters, I would say reading the first and second books is so worth it because you see the hatred between them all throughout the series up until now. Initially, Josh and Jules hate each other, but one night leads them to becoming enemies with benefits. They have such a complicated relationship as they're trying to navigate and fight their undeniable attraction, but also sticking to the rules of not falling in love. If you watch my videos, I have said before this isn't my favourite book out of the Twisted series, and that's partly because Josh seemed very toxic. But in the levels of enemies to lovers, I feel like that's something that people really enjoy. So take that information as you will. The tension in this book is so steamy. There's quite a lot of miscommunications, frustrations into like how they're feeling. It's very intense for an enemies to lovers, however very enjoyable in regards to the trope. Next is A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime, and this I would say is one of the spiciest books I've probably ever read. This whole series is very spicy, just be aware, and if you're into that, this will be perfect for you. This is set at a private boarding school and follows Ren and Crew. Ren is a seemingly perfect student, very goody two-shoes, and then Crew on the other hand, his dad owns a school, he's very handsome but a bit of a bad boy. Crew has never liked Ren, he's always hated how she's obsessed with her classes and never rebels. However, they end up being paired together in a project and they realise that there's more attraction between them than they thought. This is a massive opposites attract story. As I said, it's very steamy. I would probably say the spice level is like a 5 out of 5. There is a lot of character development and frustrations as they kind of have to adapt to like each other's lives. It is honestly just such a great read. I will say though, this isn't a slow burn. The enemies to lovers kind of happens very quick at the start, but the story itself is so worth reading, and there is a lot of ups and downs because they were enemies for so long. I would also check the trigger warnings of this book in this series before you read it. Moving back into the more fantasy dystopian genres, next is Shatter Me. This is probably one of my favorite series ever. I haven't finished it yet though. I've read probably about 5 books. I'm not sure how many there are altogether, so please no spoilers in the comments because I only know so much. And you've probably seen this book everywhere. You've probably heard about Aaron and Juliet, but their enemies to lovers is so worth it. Even though it does take a while, I think it probably takes maybe like 2 books to really get into it. That is a slow burn reader's dream. Kind of hard to explain what this series is about because every book is so different, but the general premise is that it follows a girl called Juliet and it's in a dystopian world, and she has a power where if she touches anyone they die. She is being held by the people in power, which is called the Re-establishment. They are determined to use her as a weapon. However, Juliet finally musters up the strength to fight back. So as I said, the first 2 books are probably like heavily enemies, and then it starts getting into like the enemies to lovers as the rest of the series goes on. It's honestly so worth it. There's also a love triangle, which I think makes the enemies to lovers a lot more intense because you're like, oh, who's she gonna choose? Is she gonna choose like the one that she's not meant to choose? I just can't recommend it enough. Next is an extremely popular book, and it is Fourth Wing. But honestly, when I tell you the enemies to lovers in this book is so worth it, you have to read it. This book follows Violet, who is forced to become a dragon rider within the war college she's at, even though she was destined to become a scribe. Her mother is General Sorrengail, and she believes Violet has to prove herself, so she's got no choice. Violet has to navigate this brutal world where you have to tame a dragon for survival. She faces challenges from the school's really harsh rules and the animosity of the other cadets who are just out to kill each other, but she has a particular problem within the Riders Quadrant with a guy called Zayden. He is the son of the rebel leader who was killed by Violet's mother. So as you can imagine, he absolutely hates her. The tensions are sizzling in this book. This is one of the best I've read. I feel like it honestly has you giggling, kicking your feet, screaming at some parts. It's just so insane. You will honestly be addicted and not want to stop reading. And last but not least is The Crimson Moth, and this is probably one of my favorite romantic books of all time. This is a enemies to lovers between a witch and a witch hunter. In this world, if you are found to be a witch, you are immediately executed, so Rune has to hide who she is. In doing this, she becomes the Crimson Moth, who is a rebel witch who helps other witch hide and get out of this place. In the daytime, however, she does a good job at hiding herself, as she is just a normal socialite. When a rescue mission goes wrong, she realizes she's gonna have to cover her tracks. So she ends up courting Gideon Sharp, who is one of the most notorious witch hunters out there, and actually falling for him would be so deadly to her cause. This book will honestly have you breathless. It's one of those books, just like To Kill a Kingdom, where only one of the people know that they are enemies to lovers. So many plot twists, so much tension between the characters. You're literally just on the edge of your seat the whole time. It's just an intense game of cat and mouse, and all you want is for them to be together and for him to understand, but that's probably not the case. I highly recommend this book if you are looking for a true enemies to lovers, which will have you on the edge of your seat all the way through. Okay, that is all the enemies to lovers books that I have to share with you today. I really hope you have found something that piques your interest. If you do end up reading any of these, please let me know. I really truly hope you love them. As I said at the start, I believe these to be some of the best. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, please give a like and subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in my next video.